It's 10:47 p.m. The room is quiet, lights off, just the soft glow of her phone lighting up her face. She's lying on her back, scrolling slowly, not really looking for anything, just there. Her thumb pauses. Cart total, $247. She didn't plan this. A skincare set she saw on someone else's page. A dress that looks almost exactly like one already hanging in her closet, just a slightly different shade. And something she labeled in her mind as a self-care reward. Because she had a long day. Because she's been trying. Because she deserves something. She exhales softly and taps into her banking app. Balance, $312. For a second, everything goes quiet. Not panic, not fear. Just a strange kind of awareness. Like something isn't adding up. Her finger hovers above the screen. Not because she can't afford it, she technically can. But something feels off. She stares at the numbers again, then back at the cart. And for a brief moment, a thought slips in. Quiet. Almost uncomfortable. Why does it feel like I'm always spending, but never getting ahead? She doesn't sit with it for long. She's tired. She's done enough thinking today. Her thumb moves. Pay now. Order confirmed. The screen fades back to normal. And just like that, the feeling disappears. Or at least, it gets buried. Now, cut. Same woman, same phone, same late night, same income. But something is different. She's still in bed, still scrolling. But this time, she's not in a cart. There's no buy now button, no countdown timers, no only 3 left pressure. Just numbers, calm numbers. She opens an app, not her bank account, an investment dashboard. Her money is moving, not disappearing, not leaking, working, quietly. You wouldn't even notice it if you weren't paying attention. There's no excitement, no dopamine rush, no instant reward, just growth, slow, steady, intentional. She leans back slightly, no tension in her body, no second guessing, just a kind of calm that doesn't need to prove anything. And the strange part is she still buys things. She still looks good. Her skin still glows. Her outfits still turn heads. She still goes out. Still enjoys her life. Nothing about her looks restricted, but everything about her feels different. Because she's no longer chasing the next purchase to feel something. She's not scrolling to escape. She's not buying to fix a feeling she can't explain. Somewhere along the way, the need to constantly spend just faded. Not forced, not restricted, just replaced. And if you looked at both versions of her side by side, you wouldn't see a difference in lifestyle, but you would feel a difference in control. So what changed? Because from the outside, nothing dramatic happened, no sudden raise, no lottery moment. No, I finally became disciplined story. Same woman, same income, but a completely different outcome. And that's where it gets uncomfortable. Because the truth isn't what most people expect. It's not about how much she earns. If it was, more money would have fixed it the first time. And it's not even about discipline, because she was never reckless. She wasn't out of control. She wasn't bad with money. She was just doing what made sense in the moment. So if it's not income and it's not discipline, then what actually changed? It's quieter than that. She stopped believing certain things were worth her money, not because she couldn't afford them, but because she started seeing them differently. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's the part most women never reach. They upgrade their income, they try to fix their habits, but they never question the value system underneath it all. They never stop to ask, why does this feel necessary in the first place? So they keep spending, not because they're careless, but because no one ever showed them what to question. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because this didn't start with you. You were never actually taught how to spend intentionally. No one sat you down and said, this is how money builds a life. Instead, you were taught something quieter. Something that sounds normal, even harmless. Spend emotionally. Spend socially. Spend silently. You deserve it. It's just small money. You work hard, enjoy yourself. And none of these sound wrong. That's why they work. That's why they stay. But here's the part no one explains. Small money compounds. Not just in savings, in habits. Because every it's just small money decision trains you to repeat it. Again and again and again. Until it becomes a pattern you don't even question. And over time, that pattern builds a life. Let's make it real. The average American woman spends over $3,700 every year on non-essential beauty and fashion. That doesn't feel like much in the moment. $50 here, $120 there. A quick add to cart before bed. But over 40 years, that's over $150,000. Not invested, not multiplied, not working for you, just gone, quietly. And this is where it shifts. Because this isn't really about the money. If it was, earning more would solve it. But you've already seen that it doesn't. This goes deeper than numbers. This is about identity, who you believe you are, will always decide what feels worth it. And most women were never taught to question that. So they don't just spend money, they spend in alignment with a version of themselves they never consciously chose. And this is where everything starts to shift. Because wealthy women don't just earn differently, they value differently. That's the part most people miss. From the outside, it looks like more money, better opportunities, higher standards. But underneath all of that is a different way of deciding what matters. Most women ask a very normal question before they spend. Can I afford this? And on the surface, that sounds responsible. But think about it. If the answer is yes, the decision is already made. There's no pause, no deeper filter, just permission. But the woman who builds wealth, she asks a different question, not louder, not more complicated, just different. Is this still worth it for the woman I'm becoming? And that question does something most people aren't prepared for. It interrupts the moment. It forces a gap between impulse and identity. Because now it's not about the price. It's about alignment. Does this version of me still need this? Or is this feeding a version of me I'm trying to outgrow? And once that question becomes your default, everything changes. Not overnight, not dramatically, but consistently. Your spending slows down, your clarity increases, your decisions start to feel intentional, not restricted, just aligned. And that's the difference. One woman spends based on what she can afford. Another woman spends based on who she's becoming. And over time, those two questions build two completely different lives. This is where it becomes clear, not in one big decision, but in small, quiet realizations that most women never stop to notice. Not rules, not restrictions, just awareness. 1. Buying to feel better. Most women don't just buy things, they buy relief. A bad day turns into a package, stress turns into a checkout screen, and for a moment, it works. You feel lighter, in control, rewarded, but it doesn't last, because that feeling was never solved, just delayed. And slowly, without realizing it, you train yourself to depend on spending to regulate how you feel. Not stability, dependency. The shift. You stop using money to manage emotions. You build a life that doesn't need constant escape. 2. Trend-driven fashion cycles. You see it, you like it, you buy it, because everyone else is wearing it. And for a moment, you feel updated, relevant. But a few months later, it's outdated, and you're back again. Buying not because you need something, but because your identity keeps shifting with the trend. Fast fashion doesn't just move quickly, it keeps you moving, unstable. The shift? You stop dressing for trends and start building a look that doesn't expire every season. Because stability in how you present yourself creates stability in how you spend. 3. Overpriced beauty validation. There's nothing wrong with looking good, but there's a difference between enhancing yourself and trying to prove something. And most women were never taught that line. So they spend, not just on products, but on reassurance that they are enough, that they are seen, that they are valued. Meanwhile, the beauty industry is worth over $500 billion globally. That number doesn't grow from confidence, it grows from insecurity. So the real question becomes, who is actually benefiting from how you feel about yourself? The shift. You still invest in how you look, but not to prove your worth, only to express it. 4. The soft life misinterpretation. Soft life sounds peaceful, calm, easy, enjoyable. But somewhere along the way, it got translated into spending. More comfort, more convenience, more I deserve this. And suddenly, soft life became expensive, not peaceful. Because real peace doesn't come from constant consumption. It comes from low pressure, low stress, low dependency, low financial tension. The shift. You stop confusing softness with spending and start building a life that feels light. Because it actually is. Impulse online shopping. You didn't plan it. You weren't even looking for it. But it showed up, and with one click, it was yours. That's the system. Convenience removed the friction. But it didn't remove the consequence. In fact, around 80% of online purchases are unplanned, which means most spending doesn't come from intention. It comes from exposure. And the more you're exposed, the more you spend, without ever deciding to. The shift? You don't just control your money. You control what controls your attention. Because once you see how easily you can be led to spend, you start choosing when not to follow. And then there are the patterns that feel normal, but quietly reshape everything. 6. Paying for aesthetics over assets. It looks good. The space is beautiful. The furniture is perfect. Everything feels put together. But underneath it, there's nothing being built. No ownership, no foundation, no long-term value. Just a life that looks expensive, but isn't growing. And that's the trap. because it feels like progress, but it's just presentation. The shift. You stop building how your life looks before you build what your life holds. Wealthy women invest first, then they decorate from a position of stability, not the other way around. 7. Keeping up with social media lifestyles. You see it every day. The trips, the outfits, the soft life moments, and without realizing it, you start adjusting, spending a little more, upgrading a little faster, not because you plan to, but because it feels like you're falling behind. That's comparison spending, and it's one of the most silent forms of pressure, because no one forces you, you do it to yourself. But here's the reality most people avoid. You are funding someone else's highlight reel. Their best moments become your everyday standard, and that's a game you can't win. The shift? You stop spending to match what you see, and start building a life that doesn't need to be seen to feel valid. 8. Cheap things that cost repeatedly. It's cheaper, so it feels like you're saving, but then it breaks, fades, wears out faster than it should, so you replace it. Again, and over time, you've spent more than if you had just bought it right the first time. That's the illusion. Low cost, high repetition, and the real cost isn't just money. It's the habit of choosing short-term relief over long-term value. The shift. You stop asking, is this cheaper? And start asking, how long will this actually serve me? Because wealthy women don't just buy things. They buy durability. 9. Subscriptions you forgot about. They're small. $19.99 you barely notice. And that's exactly why they stay. They don't hurt enough to cancel. So they quietly continue, month after month. And the reality? The average person wastes over $200 every year on subscriptions they don't even use. Not because they chose to, but because they stopped paying attention. Small leaks, invisible leaks. But over time, they drain everything. The shift? You don't just track big expenses, you respect the small ones. Because control isn't built in large decisions, it's built in the ones you ignore. 10. Dining out for convenience. It saves time. You're tired, busy, you just don't feel like cooking, so you order again, and it feels justified, because you're not being reckless, you're just making life easier. But over time, that convenience becomes a default, and that default becomes expensive, not because eating out is wrong, but because it stopped being intentional. The shift. You don't remove it, you redefine it. It becomes something you choose, not something you rely on. Because wealthy women don't eliminate enjoyment, they control how often it controls them. And then there are the habits that feel harmless, but quietly shape your entire future. 11. Toxic treat yourself culture. It sounds positive, soft, encouraging. Treat yourself. And sometimes, that's valid. But look closer. How often are you rewarding yourself without actually building yourself? You had a stressful day, so you spend. You felt overwhelmed, so you buy something small. You needed a break, so you escape. And over time, the pattern becomes clear. You're not rewarding progress. You're soothing discomfort. And the danger isn't the spending. It's what it replaces. Growth. Because growth is uncomfortable, slow, uncertain. But spending feels instant, feels good. The shift. You don't remove rewards. You redefine them. You start rewarding who you're becoming, not what you're trying to avoid. 12. Financial avoidance disguised as peace. I don't want to stress about money. It sounds healthy, balanced, like you're choosing peace. But sometimes, it's not peace, it's avoidance. Because not looking at your numbers doesn't mean the numbers disappear. Not thinking about your money doesn't mean your money is working for you. It just means you've chosen distance over clarity, and that distance feels calm until it costs you. The shift? You stop calling avoidance peace, and start building a relationship with money that feels calm because it's understood, not ignored. 13. Spending to fit into circles. You go out. You match the energy. You keep up because you don't want to feel out of place. So you spend a little more, dress a little differently, show up in ways that feel acceptable. But here's the truth most people avoid saying out loud: belonging should never be rented. If it costs you money to feel included, then it's not real inclusion. Because the moment you stop spending, you risk losing your place. And that's not connection, that's pressure. The shift? You stop adjusting your finances to fit into spaces, and start choosing spaces that don't require adjustment. 14%. Ignoring investing because it feels complex. It looks confusing. Charts, terms, numbers. So you delay. Tell yourself you'll figure it out later when you have more time, more money, more clarity. But here's what's actually happening. Complexity is costing you time. And time is the one thing investing needs most. Because women who invest consistently end up with significantly more wealth over time. Not because they're smarter, but because they started. early enough, and steady enough. The shift? You don't wait to understand everything, you start small, and let understanding grow with action. 15. Delaying financial decisions. I'll start later. It feels harmless, responsible even, like you're waiting for the right moment. But time doesn't wait with you, and the math is quiet, but unforgiving. Starting just 5 years earlier can double what you end up with. Same effort, same money, different timing. And that gap, you don't feel it today, but you will later. The shift, you stop. Delaying decisions that shape your future. Even imperfect action is better than perfect delay. And this is the part that matters most. This isn't about cutting everything off. It's not about restriction or suddenly becoming someone you're not. It's about seeing clearly. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to spending the same way without feeling the difference. And that awareness, that's where everything begins to change. So now everything becomes simpler. Not easier, but clearer. Because at some point, she stopped overthinking money and started filtering it. Every purchase, no matter how small, goes through 3 quiet questions. Not out loud, not dramatically, just instinctively. The first one, does this improve my life long term? Not today, not this moment, but later. Will this still matter a month from now, a year from now? Or is this just solving a temporary feeling? The second question, does this align with the woman I'm becoming? Not who you were, not who you're used to being, but who you're building. Because some things don't look wrong, they're just no longer aligned. And the third one, would my future self thank me for this? Not tolerate it, not justify it. Actually thank me. Because that version of you, she's the one who lives with your decisions, not this version. And here's the shift. If the answer is no, you don't argue with it. You don't convince yourself. You don't say, it's just this once. You just see it for what it is, and let it go. Because it's not about affordability anymore. You've already seen where that question leads. This is about awareness. And once your awareness increases, your spending naturally changes. Not forced, not restricted, just different. And that difference, that's where control begins. And this is the part most women need to hear. You were not bad with money, you were not careless, you were not undisciplined, you were not the problem. You were just never shown the difference between two things that look the same on the outside. Looking like you have money, and actually having it. Because one version of a woman spends to feel in control. She buys to calm herself, to reward herself, to feel like she's doing well, and for a moment, it works. It feels like control, but it doesn't last. Another version of a woman builds control first, quietly, internally, so she doesn't have to spend to feel anything at all. Her peace doesn't come from purchases. It comes from knowing she's okay without them. And the shift between those two women? It's not loud. It doesn't come with a big moment or a sudden breakthrough. It's quiet, subtle, almost invisible, because it doesn't start with making more money. It starts with seeing differently, seeing what you were taught, seeing what you've been repeating, seeing what no longer fits who you're becoming. And once that clicks, everything else follows. So the next time you pause, not at the price, but at the decision itself, ask yourself something deeper. Not do I want this, but who is this version of me feeding? Because that question changes the direction of everything. That's the moment you stop moving unconsciously, the moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop consuming just because it's there. That's the moment you stop being a consumer of life and start becoming a wealthy woman.